So, long story short, divide 80 in the ratio 7 is to 3. What you always do is add the ratios together. So 7 plus 3, 10. And what this means is the ratio of 7 is to 3 means that for every €10 we get, the person who has the ratio of 7 gets 7/10 of your money, and the person who has the ratio of 3 gets 3/10 of your money. And then all we have left to do is find out what 7/10 of 80 is. So just 80 multiplied by 7 over 10. So that means that one of the guys is going to get €56, and the other guy is going to get not 7/10, he's going to get 3/10, and that's going to be €24. So 56 and €24, how you divide that. Now, it gets a bit more difficult when they try and use ratios that have 3 different numbers. The same formula carries through. Add all 3 of them together. You're going to get 13 plus 9, 22. The first person gets 6 over 22. The second person gets 7 over 22. And the final person gets 9 over 22. And all you got to do is multiply 374. 374 gets multiplied by 6 over 22. So your first answer is 102. And then your second answer is just going to be 7 over 22. It's very fast. And that's 119. And then the third person is going to get €9 for every 22 you have going. So it's going to be 9 22s multiplied by 374, which is going to get me 153. Okay. Question 9 followed by question 12. Okay. Question 9 has the ratio 3/4 is to 1/2 is to 1. If I give them all the same denominator, you looking, guys? Give them all the same denominator, it becomes really easy. Same denominator would be like this. If I could change a half into quarters, how would you change a half into quarters? Top and bottom by 2. How would I change the number 1 into quarters? 4 top and bottom. And what I'll end up with is this, guys. I'll end up with 3/4 is to 1/4 is to 4/4. And see the way they're all over the same denominator? It's basically 3 is to 1 is to 4. Same thing. So question 12 as an example would be divide this into the following. I have the number 1, I have 2/3, I have 1 over 2. What number will 2 and 3 divide into? Turn everything into 6s. 1 is the same thing as 6 over 6. 2/3 is the same thing as, anybody? 4 over 6. And finally a half is the same thing as 3 over 6. I'm turning all the denominators into 6. Then what happens to the 6s on the bottom? Huh? So it's basically 6 is to 4 is to 3. Is that alright? So what we then have to do, once we have our 6 to 4 is to 3, does anybody remember what we do when we have 3 numbers for a ratio? Add them together, you get 13ths. The first one 6/13, the second one 4/13, and the third one 3/13. So you get your 546, and you're just going to multiply it by 6 over 13, and that's going to get me 252. Yeah. Question 15, guys. David, Eric and Fred decide to buy a lottery ticket for €2. David pays 50 cents, Eric pays 90 cents, and Fred pays the remainder. So that's 50 cents for David. It's going to be 90 cents for Fred. Oh, sorry, not Fred, Eric. 90 cents, and then Fred's going to pay the remainder. How much is left? 60 cents. Okay. Now that's the ratio. 50, 90, and now what we can do with ratios is, if I said to you as an example, for every 10 quid I get, you get 20. What's that the same thing as saying? For every €1 I get, you get 2. So you're allowed to divide ratios by a common denominator. The common denominator I see here is 10. So it's the same ratio as 5 is to 9 is to 6. You add them all up together and you get 20. So that's 5 twentieths, 9 twentieths, and 6 twentieths. And that's the ratio it should be shared. Now, their ticket wins €500. How do you figure out how much each one should get? Multiply €500 by each fraction individually, and then you can figure out how much each one's going to get. I probably don't need to do that. Finally, number 20 might be considered a hard one. The profits of a business owned by A, B, and C are shared in the ratio of their investments. So one of them invests 32,000, the other one invests 16,000, and the third one invests 20,000. Can anybody think of a number that will divide into all three? Huh? Well, I suppose 1,000 for a start, wouldn't it? And then once we're done with 1,000, what else would divide into it? Let's go for 4. 8 is to 4 is to 5. There's your ratio there. 8, 4, and 5. Now, C received 6,350. What fraction does C receive? It's 5/17, whoever said that. 5/17 is what C receives. B will receive 4/17, and A will receive 8/17. Now what it's telling me is this: C got 6,350. So 5/17 is 6,350. We now have to figure out what 4/17 are, and then we also have to figure out what 8/17 is. So how do you figure out what 1/17 is? Divided by 5. 6,350 divided by 5, and you get 1,270. Multiply it by 4 to get what B has. 5,080. So B got 5,080, and then this 1,270 multiplied by 8 to figure out what A got. A got 10,160. Okay.